Time, the silent herald of life and death, success or failure, the unseen force that measures man's destiny, reaching its most fateful moment as it slowly strikes the 11th hour.
Here is your room, madame. I'm sorry it's small, but so many people are here, and we are not, equipped for many guests.
It looks very comfortable, thank you.
You are alone?
Yes.
I'm sure that everything will be all right, madame. It is your husband?
Yes.
Oh. If I can help, or perhaps my wife, please call on us.
Thank you.
I must go, madame. You would wish for my wife to be with you?
Oh, that's a kind thought, but no, thank you. I'll be quite all right. Is that the mountain?
Yes.
It's very high, isn't it?
Very high. I'm afraid it will take time, madame, a long time. You must be patient and brave.
I ask for 20 chickens. And how many you give me? How many? 2. Only 2. How do you think I can feed all these people?
But, Anna, that is all I can spare.
But this is a crisis, an emergency. A plane, it crashed into the mountain there. People are coming from all over the world. Planes are flying in every moment with more people. They must be fed.
All I have left are my laying hens.
Well, kill them and bring them.
But, Anna...
Don't argue. Bring them, bring them.
All I can say, it is a pity the plane chose that mountain to crash into. It is causing too much upheaval.
You are a fool, and a selfish fool, which is worse. Now go and bring me those chickens.
All right, then. But if you ask for eggs and I say all my laying hens, they have been killed, what then?
Let us worry about that when it happens. Now go, and bring me chickens.
Anna, 4 cups of coffee needed, and quickly.
Clara, 4 cups of coffee, and quickly.
A helicopter full of journalists has arrived. Oh, what a lot of people. All the rooms have been filled, and still they are coming.
What news of the plane?
Search parties cannot reach it. They say it struck the rock at the peak.
Any survivors?
You can't be sure. But I shouldn't think so. It's very sad.
It's a bad thing for all these relatives to arrive on the scene. They can't help.
There's a Mrs. Bradford arrived, young, pretty. Her husband was aboard. I heard he's a famous pianist.
Now, that's enough talk from you. See to their rooms and explain about them all not being aired.
Is this the only room you have?
It's the last room, madame. It's the best we have.
It faces the sun. Still, it will have to do. Send me up a pot of tea immediately.
Very well.
Oh, and one moment.
Madame?
If any reporters wish to interview me, kindly inform them that I do not wish to see anyone.
Oh.
They're behaving abominably. The moment I left the plane, I was surrounded. Surely we can be left to our thoughts and left in peace, especially at a time like this.
I understand, madame. I will do all I can.
Thank you. Is that the mountain?
Yes, madame.
It's higher than I thought it would be. Is that the mist coming down?
Yes.
That will make the rescue operations all the more complicated.
Everything will be all right, madame. You must leave it to the authorities.
Of course. Leave it to the authorities. Odd, but he always hated mountains. He must have sensed that something would happen.
Your husband, madame?
My son. My only son.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was famous. Perhaps you've heard about him. He owned Bradford, the concert pianist.
Oh, but there's another Mrs. Bradford here, his wife, in the room at the end of the passage. She came on an earlier plane. You wish for me to tell her that you are here?
No.
Oh.
Would you get me my tea, please?
Of course. You would like me to draw the curtains?
No. I don't mind looking at that mountain. After all, it now possesses someone who was my life.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Bradford. I'm Bertram Locke of the Sunday Globe.
Oh, do you mind? I don't wish to speak to any journalist.
I'm not speaking to you as a journalist. I just wanted to say I knew your husband, Ian.
You knew him?
Yes, at school. We were together. He was a brilliant all-rounder, sportsman, student, and pianist. He could have been anyone or anything. May I buy you a coffee, a drink or something?
Oh, no, thank you.
It must be a terrible strain for you. I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
His mother's staying here as well, isn't she?
Do you mind, Mr. Locke? I don't wish to gossip.
I remember his mother from school days. I can see her still, arriving in that great black car and sweeping in looking truly magnificent. A lovely woman.
Yes, very lovely.
Oh, but a little overpowering.
Please, Mr. Locke.
Well, she was. She frightened us all, including Ian.
He was frightened of her?
Petrified. He always said so. There wasn't much love lost between the two of them.
Yet we've always lived with his mother. There's never been a single day when we've been alone together. It was always Mother. What she wanted and what she desired. She was always considered. Even when he went on concert tours, she came. She never wanted him to marry, you know that? And I was quite the wrong person. I have no social position and very little money. I loved Ian, that's all. But I wasn't born on the right side of the tracks. She never let me forget it. That's why I left.
You weren't living with Ian?
No. And then this happened, and here I am.
I'm sorry.
I suppose you're going to put that into the papers, aren't you? It'll make quite a headline. Wife of famous pianist confesses all.
I swear to you, I'll never mention a word to a living soul.
Thank you.
But knowing Ian, I would never have left him.
You don't know what it was like.
I can imagine. But he needed you.
No, he's dead. Killed up there on that mountain. And he's free from the two of us. Life's funny, isn't it? For the past 5 years, 2 women have been battling for him, and then fate stepped in and finished everything. A giant hand squeezing out a life like a pip. It's fascinating.
Here, try some of this brandy. It'll help you.
Thank you. There's no hope, is there?
There's always hope. When this is all over, Mrs. Bradford, and he's back, I'd fight. You know that?
Fight his mother? Could anyone fight her and win? I don't think so. I tried, but she broke my spirit completely. Rita, your stockings seem my dear. Oh, Rita, your hair. You shouldn't laugh so loudly. It isn't done. Oh, Rita, 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 on and on. I'm not a fighter, Mr. Locke.
Oh, well, if you'll excuse me, I have to leave you. And as for not being a fighter, if your future and happiness is at stake, I'd fight.
You aren't going to tell anyone about this, are you?
I swear I won't.
Thank you. It's helped me to talk. Now all I can do is wait. Come in.
Oh, for the sake of appearances, I thought I'd call. The reporters are curious. You have a better room than I have. You can see the mountain quite clearly.
Yes.
There's no sign of the wreckage. They say it's very high near the peak. It'll soon be covered with mist. That'll make things more difficult. I'm surprised you came.
Ian was my husband.
Yet you left him. He was very unhappy about that.
And yet he didn't ask me to come back.
Why should he? After all, you left him.
I don't want to talk about that. Doesn't seem important anymore.
You can't erase the past because of the present. I wonder when they'll be back. I mean, the rescue parties. They say no one could ever survive. You wonder how it could ever happen. Surely they knew about that mountain. Surely they make allowances. Some incompetent fool with his thoughts elsewhere, and a man like Ian is destroyed. He had so much to give the world, and he gave so much. You look awful. Why don't you use makeup? Oh, I don't suppose it matters now he's dead.
Ian is not dead.
So that's the plan you're adopting. My husband is still alive, and I'm so close to him that I can sense these things. The newspapers will enjoy that. You should receive a great deal of publicity. Is that what you want?
I want Ian back, that's all.
You want him back after rejecting him?
Please, do you mind? I don't want to argue. Not now, of all times.
Mist has completely covered the peak. Now you can't see anything.
I'm going out. I want to walk. Excuse me.
Rita.
Yes?
Nothing. Nothing that you would understand.
Good afternoon, madam. May I introduce myself, please? Captain Gomez, police.
You have news?
Oh, unfortunate, no. One search party reach area, but they see nothing. They return because of the weather. It is dangerous in mist. It falls fast.
I see.
We trust that things will be all right. As soon as we bring in survivors, we fly them out. It is organized with the magnificence. You have nothing to worry about. Your husband is Senor Bradford?
Yes.
I have heard him play the piano many, many times. I hear him last Mexico City. I have his records. I have great admiration for his technique. You know, madam, I have the, how you say, the theory.
Oh?
I tell you, people, they do not die one moment before the time is right. I believe your husband still has much to give the world.
I hope you're right.
I am right, madam. You see. Oh, there's Senor Locke. Excuse, please. I must talk to him.
Well, officer, what's the latest?
The first search party, it was forced to return. They say there can be no hope of survivors at all. But I plan to climb with the second party.
May I come?
You? Oh, but senor, it is a difficult climb. In places it is like this.
I want to come all the same. I have a good reason.
Madame, you have not eaten your supper.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's very delicious.
It is good and nourishing food, and you need it. You try the chicken. It is my speciality.
I'd make some pretense at eating if I were you, Rita. You're going to hurt her feelings, and you can't starve yourself. That isn't sensible.
I don't feel like anything.
It's not what you feel like. It's the outward show. You mustn't allow all these curious people to see how you feel. That unfortunate incident when that woman broke down over her husband, it didn't serve any useful purpose. And it did give the journalist something to write about. Come along, try and eat some of that chicken. It's really quite delicious. You know, I never suspected you felt this for him. I thought it was his position, the wife of the famous pianist. Here, try a little of this wine. There. I believe a second search party has left. There were 88 aboard. It's a lot of people.
Yes.
Oh, dear, there's another plane coming in. I do hope there aren't more journalists. I hate their curiosity. I always have. I'm talking a lot, aren't I? Must be the altitude. It's really very high up here. Of course, the longer they take, the less chance there is. Odd how you can protect and cherish a person and then this sort of thing happens. I suppose I was overprotective. But I had to be because of him. He hated Ian.
What did you say? Who hated Ian? Mrs. Bradford, what are you talking about?
I didn't say anything.
But you did. You said he hated Ian.
His father.
But you've always said that they were devoted.
The outward show. He was a hard man. Or a hard and cruel man.
But Ian speaks with such love of him.
An illusion I created for Ian's sake. I only feel so glad that...
Yes?
That he wasn't his father.
Wasn't his father? I don't understand.
I think you do.
Oh.
His real father was a wonderful man. So fine, so cultured. Like Ian, exactly like Ian. When my husband learned the truth, there was his resentment, his loathing, and his bitterness. He left in the end.
I see.
And then there was Ian and me. Until you came. Perhaps you can understand better now.
Yes, I can understand much better.
Come on, you lazy lump of a man. There's a lot to do. The coal is finishing, and you must start chopping the wood.
They have been talking now for 3 hours.
Who?
The 2 Bradford women. In the beginning, they did not wish to see each other. Now the old one can even smile. That is something I did not suspect.
Will you stop standing here looking at them and get on with your work? Hear that? Another plane coming in. What confusion there is. Planes coming and going, people coming and going. Never did I suspect our little hotel would be like this.
There's a story. I'm telling you that.
Where? What? Oh, those 2 women. I wish you would forget about them. Now come quick. That wood, it must be in the kitchen within the hour.
Oh, no.
And think when this is all over, we will be able to retire.
Retire?
We are charging top prices, and they are paying because they can't help it.
It does not seem right. I mean...
Right or wrong, why shouldn't we make something out of this? Now come quickly. I must have that wood.
This seems the best way up. Over here. Do you hear that helicopter? They are hoping to use it to drop a rescue team, but they will never do it. I wish they would stop it in case they loosen the rock face.
The going is pretty tough.
You are the only newspaper man who has attempted it. Oh, yes, it is easier this way. Now, to push through this.
Over this way!
Flash a light. Yes. Have you found it?
I can see the wreckage from here. But there cannot be any survivors.
Merciful heaven. It is like a nightmare.
It must have struck that rock and exploded.
The tail section must have landed a quarter of a mile away. You see? A doll. Oh, there must have been a child aboard.
I've never seen anything like this. It's ghastly.
I have been a police officer for 15 years, and I have never seen such horror. There could be no survivors. Lopez, bring the stretcher over this way. Oh, fools standing around staring.
Here, let me help, Gomez.
I know why you came. To find Senor Bradford.
I came full of optimism and hope. And now I have no hope at all.
Well, that seems to be everything. I will post a guard here and wait for the airline people to start their investigations.
I haven't been able to find Bradford.
There are many who will never be identified.
And yet, I don't know.
You feel you want to continue the search, Senor?
I feel I should, but I know it's crazy.
Senor, listen to me. If there is a feeling in your heart that you should go on seeking Senor Bradford, you must heed what you feel. These promptings come to us and we must listen. He might be anywhere. How do you know? How can we be sure? We believe there are no survivors, but how do we know? If the plane exploded and then disintegrated, he could be anywhere. He might be sorely wounded and praying for help. You go ahead, Senor, and seek. I will supervise the return to the hotel.
It was only Gomez speaking to me the way he did that forced me back to that scene of horror. The charred remains of suitcases and clothing had been piled high, and over it all was the smell of burning. I circled the area again. I pushed aside bushes almost fearfully. There were no birds. They must have flown in terror at the explosion. The bearers had gone, and only Gomez remained. He stood staring around him and shaking his head, as if still dazed by the destruction around him.
I am afraid there is no hope, my friend.
Yes, I'm afraid there's no hope.
Will you come?
Yes, I'll come.
I feel tired and old and ineffectual. Is that the word? Yes?
That's right.
I feel sorry for the young Mrs. Bradford. She is unhappy.
Yes. It wasn't the right time for him to die, officer.
You believe such things?
Yes. There is usually a perfect time, but with him, there were too many loose threads. That's not the way it is. That's why I
believe he is alive.
Yes, I do.
There is no real understanding of life. When you think you do, that is nothing.
I turned to follow Gomez, and then for an instant I swung round and looked again at the scene of carnage behind me. It was then, at that moment, that I saw it. An arm hanging limply from a low bush higher up the mountain. I stared aghast, and then, almost in slow motion, a body slid out of the branches and fell with a faint thud. I must have cried out because Gomez turned.
Senor, what's the matter?
I could only point without speaking. He followed the line of my trembling finger. He moved first, and I followed. He was bending over the still figure when I reached him. He turned, his face white.
It is Senor Bradford. He is alive.
The rescue team has returned, Rita.
Oh?
No survivors.
Oh.
It's as I thought. No survivors. I did so hope that... We've got to be brave about this. You know what I mean. The outward show.
Yes, of course. The outward show.
I wish this hadn't happened the way it did. I could have... Well, I could have arranged things in a much more satisfactory way. I know so much more about you, and it helps knowing about others, doesn't it? You know a little about me as well, and I dare say that has helped you too.
If he came back, I'd never leave him again.
If he came back, I would never try and possess him. I would let him go. But it's too late for these resolutions, isn't it? It's too late.
Oh, so there you are. You always find an excuse for sitting back and doing nothing. Now it's your sadness for all these people.
It is my great sadness.
Sadness or not, they need the service. You must move and see how you can help them. Coffee, perhaps, tea, wine. Don't sit there doing nothing.
Oh, I thought there would be survivors.
It is not for you to think. Now come, move.
Hello there! Hello down there!
Who's that? It came from out there.
Hello! Send a doctor and a stretcher bearer! Quickly! Quickly!
That's Gomez.
A doctor and a stretcher bearer? There must be survivors. Quickly, tell everyone.
He's alive?
I'm afraid he's seriously injured, but the doctor's with him.
Alive? I can't believe it. And yet I can. Yes, I can believe it. You always said he was going to be all right, didn't you, my dear? You sensed it better than I did. Can we see him?
I'd allow the doctor to attend to him first, Mrs. Bradford. Then they're flying him out. Doubtless you'll go on the plane.
Ian's the only survivor?
He seems to be.
I see.
The only survivor. Saved in what could be called the 11th hour. It's a responsibility for us all, my dear, and whatever we do, we must never forget it.
They flew out early the next morning. Bradford, his mother, and his wife. They'd arrived separately, but they were leaving together. I knew I'd missed a great story there, but some stories can't be written.